Hey folks, and welcome back to another Division 2 video. Leveling in Tom Clancy's The Division 2 can get a little bit confusing for new players, with it shifting into different forms a few times throughout the game. So in this short video, I'm going to do my best to simplify it, and make it as easy to understand as possible. Let's jump into it. So this is going to be a short video, but I've been asked a few times in the comments about how leveling works with world tiers, the Warlords of New York expansion, and so on. I'll do my best in this video to give you a breakdown of how leveling your character works in The Division 2, and at the end of the video give you a summary of how it all works together. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 can currently be looked at in two parts: the base game and the Warlords of New York expansion, with them both having their own types of character leveling, which I think is where a lot of the confusion comes in for most players. When you start the base game of The Division 2, your character starts fresh at level 1, and you progress through the game to a max player level of 30. Leveling from 1 to 30 is the bulk of the game, and will have you tackle all of the main story missions and fight through each of the strongholds, each belonging to one of the major factions, the Hyenas, Outcasts, and True Sons. After you've taken down the final stronghold, you'll enter the next stage of leveling your character, who at this point will be at level 30. These are known as the World Tiers, starting at World Tier 1. This is the section of the game that introduces you to the new enemy faction, the Black Tusk. Each World Tier increases the overall difficulty of the game, and changes the way gear and weapons are rated. When you enter the World Tiers, you will no longer see a level on your character, gear, or weapons, but instead they will have a gear score. Your character's gear score is determined by the average gear score of all of your currently equipped gear and weapons. You increase your World Tier by beating the Black Tusk occupied strongholds that require you to have a specific gear score, and each World Tier has its own minimum and maximum gear score. World Tier 1 starts at gear score 250 up to 300. World Tier 2 goes from 301 to 350. World Tier 3 goes from 351 to 400. World Tier 4 goes from 401 to 450. And World Tier 5 goes from 451 to a max gear score of 515. This is the gear score cap and the max power your character can have in the base game of Division 2. At this point, if you're not planning to go on to the expansion, it's all about maximizing your gear score and attributes and getting as much out of your builds as possible. Now let's move on to the Warlords of New York expansion. This is where it can get a little bit confusing. The moment you start the expansion by traveling to New York, you completely leave the world tiers and gear score systems behind, and they're no longer a factor in the game at all from this point. When arriving in New York, starting the expansion, your character will be moved from their current gear score to level 31, and as you play through the expansion, you'll be leveling your character from level 31 to the max character level of 40. When you hit level 40, that's it, there's no moving on to another layer of gear score or anything like that. Level 40 is simply the max character level, so all of the gear and weapons you collect from this point will all be level 40. And the goal is to optimize your builds for harder content like legendary missions and raids, maxing out your attributes and finding talent combinations that work well together. At level 40 though, there is another layer of progression once you finish the final mission of the Warlords of New York story. And I think this is what some players confuse with the gear score, which as I said earlier, we won't be seeing again. This next part of the video does not have any story spoilers for Warlords of New York, but I am about to talk about one of the endgame features, and I thought I'd mention that just in case you wanted to go into Warlords completely blind. So after you finish the final mission of Warlords of New York's campaign, you unlock a new infinite leveling system, which is your SHD level. But this does not affect your character's level or the level of the gear and weapons you pick up, they will all still be at level 40. Your SHD level is a separate leveling system all of its own. This is what you're looking at when you see players running around with that thousands number next to their name, that's their SHD level. As you level your character's SHD level, you will be able to increase attributes by a small amount, earn crafting materials or credits, and get a small health increase up to SHD 1000. After 1000, you can still earn crafting materials, credits, and get a small health increase. but you will have maxed out all of the attribute increases you can have. And currently, that's all for leveling a character in Tom Clancy's The Division 2. So, to summarise, when you start the base game, you level your character from 1 to 30, which is the max character level of the base game. Then, you move on to the 5 world tiers and gear score, up to the highest world tier, which is world tier 5, and the highest gear score of 515. This is the max power your character can have in the base game. Starting the Warlords of New York campaign, we leave the world tier system and the gear score system completely behind and start leveling our character from level 31 to level 40, which will be the new highest character level in the Warlords of New York expansion. Once we finish the final story mission for Warlords of New York, we stay at level 40, but on top of that we also gain the infinite SHD leveling, which will increase our attributes up to SHD 1000. And that's it, nice and simple. At the beginning of the video I said this was going to be short, but to be honest it took longer to explain than I thought it would. I hope this video answers any questions you have and helps with understanding some of the odd leveling in The Division 2. If you'd like some more information about The Division 2 and how everything works in game, I do have a series of very in-depth, easy to understand beginner's guides. I'll link the playlist in the top right here if you want to check it out. Or, as always, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I always try and answer as many questions as I possibly can, and there's always plenty of helpful players down there too. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more Division 2 and looter shooter content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.